Badrinarayan Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
How glorious to Prabhupada.
You are generally a happy person, as we know.
Only because I'm talking to you.
I'm going to send you a very nice clip from Srila Prabhupada. And basically, he's saying, if you're not happy, something's wrong in your Krishna consciousness. And every time I ever talk to you, you are always happy. So you must be right on.
It's you. You bring out the best in me.
Yeah, right. So, Maharaj, of course, you've been on our channel multiple times. You know what we do. But this, of course, is the Disappearance Day of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. We honored him yesterday in the U.S. Today is the celebration day in India. We're very, very happy to have you so that you can tell us about Srila Prabhupada on this Disappearance Day. I want to remind our audience that we have a number of events in addition to you going on. At 7 o'clock, we'll be spending time with Giriraj Maharaj. And we have a number of events that occurred yesterday that everybody can find on our SPT, gbcspt.com site and on our YouTube site. So, Maharaj, your talk is basically on this impossible mission. And I understand you have a really fantastic PowerPoint to go along so that you have a lot of beautiful pictures and to tell the story, yes?
May your words become true. Yes, I'm going to try.
Okay. So we'll then get ready to begin. Shakshi Gopal is in the background being our administrator. And there we go.
He's the witness. He's the witness in the background.
He's the witness in the background. So, Maharaj, we're all ready to hear. I'll be, of course, listening to the class also and come and thank you at the end of it. So go ahead, Shakshi. Go ahead with our time.
So the first slide is on the screen. They can see it.
Yes, it can be seen.
All righty. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesha Sunyavari Paskacha Desatarani. So we've titled this Srila Prabhupada's Impossible Mission. And that was, Prabhupada said the same himself. And you'll see, we're going to elaborate on this, how it was against all odds, his success. It was impossible. So this is a meditation on what enabled Prabhupada to accomplish, to attract the mercy of Krishna, and thus enabled him to accomplish this impossible mission. So we're asking here, what is the consciousness behind so feelingly calling out for Krishna? And that consciousness is deep, deep compassion for the suffering conditioned souls. And this compassion, it is the essence of the Panchatattva. Compassion is the very essence of the Sankirtan mission, that we accept tapasya, we accept difficulty, we put aside our personal interests, and how can we help these people get Krishna? So this mood of compassion, we find it in the Panchatattva. It is also the mood of Advaita Acharya. We see Advaita Acharya here calling down Krishna, Hankara. He was calling Krishna with his powerful prayers and cries by offering tulsi leaf and Ganga jal to his Shalagam Sila. This is a picture of Advaita Acharya's house in Shantipur. We're going to come back to this house later on. But again, there's a theme here. The Panchatattva's mood is compassion. Advaita Acharya's compassion. We have the 6 Goswamis. They were absorbed in concern for the suffering of the conditioned souls. They were all scholars and leaders amongst society. And they gave up everything, and they were living in Vrndavan under a different tree and accepted loincloth just so they could write this literature and save the conditioned souls. So again, this mood of compassion, it is the thread that runs through our sampradaya. And here we have Prabhupada meditating. He's in his Radhakund. I'm sorry, my screen is blocked by this banner. That's another story. East meets West, and never the twain shall. So we've got a little technical problem here. Anyway, this is Prabhupada, and he's in his rooms at the Radha Damodar temple, and right outside that window is the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami. Now, what was that mission that Prabhupada was given by his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? He's here. This is, maybe you can see can you see my pointer? Anyway, this is the governor of West Bengal under the British Raj. He was the second most important, powerful person in the British Raj in India, out under the Viceroy. And here he's meeting with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Actually, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was criticized. He invited the governor of West Bengal, this British man, out to Mayapur for Gaur Purnim. And he was criticized by some of the Babajis that, oh, you're bringing this Malecha, this Yavana, out to the pure holy Dham, and they gave him a hard time. Now, in those days, there was only a very simple ox cart trail out from Calcutta to Mayapur, so no one was coming. So afterwards, after the governor left, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, actually, because to get the governor out there, they had to build a road. They built a nice road to get the governor out there. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, actually, the governor was scratch. I couldn't care for the governor, but I wanted to get the road. So this transcendental, practical Vaishnav cunning, how to get things done for Krishna. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur embodied that mood, and he was not one to mince words. This is a postcard that was put out by the Gaudiya Math, and the caption is, Western civilization must be crushed. That was Prabhupada's mission. And this is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He's sitting with the governor of West Bengal and the governor of West Bengal's secretary. And this right here, they're speaking on a radio. It's all India radio. And they were speaking. It was going all over India. Now, there's the famous when Gandhi went to the round table discussions in London. They're trying to sort out the India question. And they took him to see that, Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament. And in those days, London really was the capital of the world. Hail Britannia, Britannia rule the waves. So it really was the capital of the world. So here's Gandhi in his lungi and chadar and his walking stick. And they showed him all over. They were trying to impress him that, to be cowed before the power of the British Empire. So they asked him, after giving him his tour of London, they said, Gandhiji, so what do you think of Western civilization? Gandhi's answer was, I think it would be a good idea. In other words, may you someday become civilized. So this was the mission of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that he gave to Srila Prabhupada to completely turn the tide. This is just for fun at the house of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. These are his original deities. These were the first deities installed in the Gaudiya Math at Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's headquarters in Mayapur. It's Sri Sri Gandharvika Giridhari. Gandharvika, of course, is Radharani, the heavenly singer, and Giridhari, of course, lifter of Govardhan Hill. So Prabhupada said, I heard Prabhupada say this in class. I heard him say it twice, actually, and it's actually on in the Lilamrita, that Prabhupada, when they first met, Prabhupada told him, you should go to the West and spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in a letter 2 weeks before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left the planet, he wrote Prabhupada and said the same thing. You go to the West and spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in English. So, but Prabhupada said, and Prabhupada was thinking, how will I do this? How is it possible? It's an impossible mission. So, Prabhupada narrates how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would come to him in dreams, and probably lying on his bed, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would wake him, and he would walk to the door of the room and walk out the door and beckon Prabhupada to follow. So in the dream, Prabhupada would get up and follow. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would walk across the courtyard to the gate, the front gate of Prabhupada's house, and beckon him to follow. And Prabhupada would follow. And then the gate would open, and you know how dreams, they're multidimensional. When the gate would open, all of a sudden there was the Atlantic Ocean, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would start floating across the Atlantic Ocean and turning to Prabhupada, follow me, follow me. And Prabhupada had these, Prabhupada knew it meant take sannyas and go to the West. So Prabhupada thought, how is this possible? Prabhupada said, in this way, my Guru Maharaj gave me no peace. He was calling Prabhupada. Now, Gopal Chand Maharaj, as a young boy, he's living at the Radha Damodar temple. This is the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami, and this is the Samadhi Murti and of Rupa Goswami. And Prabhupada, Gopal Chand Maharaj, he's passed away now, but he would narrate how as a small boy in the middle of the night, he would hear it because they were all living in the compound there of the Radha Damodar temple. In the middle of the night, he would hear someone crying and calling out to Rupa Goswami with such feeling. And he would look out his window at night and he would see Prabhupada sweeping, crying, and praying at the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami. And he was thinking, how will I execute this impossible mission? So that mood of surrender and dependence and calling for mercy. And Gopal Chand Maharaj, well, I'll say this. Hari Sari told me that he had heard that Prabhupada had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. So at an appropriate moment, evening massage, Prabhupada was speaking about his early days living in Vrndavan. And Hari Sari asked him, Prabhupada, I heard you had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. Prabhupada said, that is common knowledge. You'll note he didn't deny it, but he didn't really want to talk about it. You know, other people would be advertising it and have bumper stickers and posters, but Prabhupada was a very saintly and humble and sophisticated person. He wasn't advertising. Some time went by. Hari Sari asked again, some days, some weeks, some months later, Prabhupada, I heard you had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. Prabhupada said, that you do not require. Means he doesn't want to talk about it. Now, later on, he spoke with Gopal Chand Maharaj, and also Mulak Prakriti interviewed him. And he describes, I won't go into all the details of the story, but he describes, Gopal Chand, now an old man, described how his mother used to send him to Prabhupada in the evenings. and nice Vaishnav Mataji, and there's a sadhu living there. And she would ask Prabhupada, she's cooking for her family anyway. So the young boy, Gopal Chand, would come over and ask Swamiji, my mother wants to know, do you want anything, any veg, any rice, some puris, maybe some hot milk? And sometimes Prabhupada would take something, sometimes he wouldn't. On this particular evening, Gopal Chand, little boy, showed up, and Prabhupada had a cough, very bad cough and a cold, and he was all wrapped up with a chadar and a cap, and his voice was choked up with mucus. He said, no, no. He said, no, no, I'm fasting. You know the old thing Prabhupada used to say, how do you get rid of an unwanted guest? Don't feed him. So for a cold, you fast. And so Prabhupada was fasting. Now, in the middle of that same night, Gopal Chand heard that his parents were awake and they were talking, and they were looking out their quarters in the Radha Damodar temple. And they were looking towards Prabhupada's room. And they could see that under the door of Prabhupada's room, there was an effulgent light coming out. That gap between the floor and the door, there was a light coming out. And Prabhupada was talking to someone with a very deep and melodious voice. Now, those temples, when they're locked up at night, they are locked up as tight as a drum. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out. And everyone was present and accounted for. So who was Srila Prabhupada talking to? So as soon as it was daybreak, the little boy scurried over to Prabhupada's room and said, Swamiji, Swamiji, who were you talking to last night? And he said Prabhupada was sitting up. His cold was completely gone. His voice was deep and rich. And Prabhupada said, I had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. So innocent little boy, he asked, what did he say? What did he say? And Prabhupada said, he told me, you just write these books and we will take care of everything else. You just write these books and we will take care of everything else. Those 6 Goswamis were reciprocating with Prabhupada's crying for mercy, his prayers, and his self-surrender. They reciprocated. Now, this is from Prabhupada's Vrndavan Bhajan poem. I read this thing at least once, twice, 3 times a year. If you haven't read it, I just don't deprive yourself. It's Prabhupada in Vrndavan, all alone, and he's thinking about the mission of his spirit. The Gaudiya Math was so powerful. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a train crisscrossing India and putting on festivals. He had a steamship going along the coast, putting on festivals. He had 64 temples. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Printing presses. The Gaudiya Math was rolling on like the waves of the ocean. And here is Prabhupada some years later, and he's looking at the whole thing in disarray, and what happened and why, and meditating on the order that he had to go to the West. So out of that meditation comes this Vrndavan Bhajan. And they were thinking, don't leave Vrndavan, that the perfection is Nirjan Bhajana. And Nirjan Bhajana means to become absorbed in the daily meditation on the daily activities of Radha and Krishna. And it's expounded in a book called the Madhurya Kandambini by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. And he's describing how to practice this meditation of Nirjan Bhajan, being completely absorbed in the pastimes, in Manaseva of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrndavan. So this was considered the apex, that to reach this stage of Nirjan Bhajan, and that they thought, could only be accomplished in Vrndavan. And here's what Prabhupada writes. And he's talking about the Sankirtan mission, going out door to door and delivering the conditioned souls. So Prabhupada writes, by the performance of such Sankirtan, there will come remembrance automatically. Then there will be Nirjan Bhajan manifested in the heart spontaneously. not as a separate effort. Just like Bilva Mangala Thakur says that, liberation and all the Artha Kama, it's all at my doorstep with folded hands waiting to serve me. So Prabhupada's saying if one's absorbed in the Sankirtan Jaga, then Nirjan Bhajan will come automatically in due course. And then Prabhupada he doubles down on it. He said, it is not proper for the Vaishnava to remain so uncompassionate. We have devotees. We should definitely go to Vrndavan, spend time in Vrndavan, be purified, advance in spiritual life. It's a holy dham. I'm not diminishing the importance of Vrndavan. But you get devotees that they give up their service and they go to Vrndavan. Prabhupada said, you will not find Krishna in the bushes of Vrndavan. And here Prabhupada says, it is not proper for the Vaishnavas to remain so uncompassionate, worried about their own self-deliverance. I want to be saved, so I'm not taking any risk. I'm not leaving Vrndavan. Prabhupada calls this uncompassionate. Then he says, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, saying the Madhurya Kandambini, look at his conclusion and see what is his judgment. So they follow this path by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, how to become absorbed in Nirjana Bhajan, Manaseva on the daily activities of Radha and Krishna, and never leave Vrndavan. But Prabhupada says, what is the conclusion of that book by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur? Here's that conclusion. First off, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur points out you want to meditate on Radha and Krishna. But in this age, Radha and Krishna have combined as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Yuga avatar, and the Yuga Dharma is Sankirtan. You want to meditate on Radha Krishna? You meditate on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's the conclusion of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. And he says, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writes in that Madhurya Kandambini, meditating on and serving in the Sankirtan of Lord Chaitanya is the perfection of Nirjan Bhajana. And I like this picture. This was actually commissioned by Prabhupada. He gave the specifics. And if you'll note here we have Radha Krishna Leela in Goloka Vrindavan or Gokula Vrindavan. And here we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan mission in the same pose. So it is the same, actually. So in that mood of I have to fulfill the order of my spiritual master. Prabhupada's health was not strong. He had no money. He had no support. He had no contacts. What was going to happen? But Rupa Goswami had told him, you write these books. So here's Prabhupada. This is in the Chippiwada temple. This is in Old Delhi. It's in it's probably 200 yards from that big mosque, and anyone who's been to Chippiwada, it's right off Chandi Chowk. It's just completely crowded and churning with, the passion modes of commerce. That's where all the presses are. So Prabhupada would stay at Chippiwada temple in the mood of this burning compassion, get these books and go to the West. So here's Prabhupada sitting in Chippiwada temple. And Prabhupada also printed up, this is a flyer Prabhupada had printed up and took with him when he would meet people to inspire their interest in the Bhagavatam when he came to the West. It's titled here, India's Message of Peace and Goodwill. Prabhupada also printed on this, Centers Around the World. Prabhupada didn't have anything. He'd never even been to America. So was Prabhupada just lying or bluffing? Or Mr. Forrester, it's described in the Leelamrita. Mr. Forrester was a clerk at the Scindia Shipping Lines, their office in New York. And when Prabhupada finally made it to America, New York was rough. It's so many things. Prabhupada got robbed. He got, so many different things. And Prabhupada's observation of New York City was that the whole thing smelled like dog stool. So it was no walk in the park for Prabhupada. So he would occasionally, just to pacify his mind, he would go to the Scindia ship, the office, and he would check when does the next Scindia ship leave for India. And after doing this several times but never booking a ticket, Mr. Forrester said to him, I don't think you're going back. And Prabhupada said to him, Mr. Forrester narrates in the Lilamrita, that Prabhupada said to him with such feeling and conviction, Prabhupada said, I am not poor. Prabhupada said, I have books, I have temples, I have devotees, I have deities, I have festivals. Only time is separating. But it doesn't mean it was easy. So this is outside Prabhupada's room in Chippewa. And this grating, you can see here this grating. Prabhupada's room is on the 3rd floor, I think. So there's several other floors before you go down to the temple. And there was a number of householders living, and they were all talking and chit-chatting and, the regular mundane katha. And Prabhupada had to tune it all out and keep working on his Bhagavatam purports. This is Prabhupada's confirmation of his free passage on the Jaladuta ticket. One time, Mukunda Maharaj told me this, that Prabhupada, some lady said, oh, you're just a freeloader, on a radio show, accused Prabhupada of being a freeloader, which in America is quite a derogatory term. It means you're just a leech and sponging off other people. So she called Prabhupada a freeloader. And Prabhupada's response was, oh, yes, I got free passage. I freeloaded to America. So Prabhupada said, yes, I am a freeloader, which completely frustrated the lady because Prabhupada took no offense. It's like brainwashing. And Prabhupada said, yeah, wash the brain. So you'll see here is the Chippewa address on Prabhupada's ticket, his free passage to America. And this is a picture of the Chippewa temple. It's now in ISKCON's hands. It's a place of pilgrimage. And these are the deities there, Shishi Radha Radha Balaba, the deities there at the Chippewa temple. So Prabhupada, now the books are finished. He's got his free passage, and he's going to the west. So a few days before Prabhupada left, he visited Shantipur before his departure on the Jaladuta. Now, Prabhupada mentioned that the reason he visited Shantipur, because at that Advaita Bhavan, at that house, Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda would meet and make plans and strategies for how to spread the Sankirtan movement. So Prabhupada went there to beg for their mercy. I'm your agent. I'm going to the West. Please help me. Please give me intelligence. And Jayapataka Maharaj tells how in 1985, the Mahant, in charge of the Shantipur, Advaita's house, Advaita Acharya's house, narrated. Now, he'd known Prabhupada as a young man. Then one day, many decades later, he saw a sadhu, saintly sadhu, sitting in the back of the temple, chanting and crying, softly crying and chanting. So naturally, being a compassionate person, the pujari, the mahant, went up and asked. And as he got close, he could see this is actually a Bhai Babu. Now Prabhupada had taken sannyas, so he was, Bhaktivedanta Swami. But he said, are you a Bhai Babu? And Prabhupada's response was, I am the unworthy disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he has given me an impossible mission. So Prabhupada was there. So Srila Prabhupada, this is the Jaladuta. Prabhupada was the only passenger. All the rest were crew and the captain. And let's just meditate for a moment on what Prabhupada left behind. That he was living in Vrndavan. Prabhupada said that the Radha Damodar temple is the center of the spiritual world. He looked out his window at Rupa Goswami's Samadhi. He would chant japa on his porch in front of Radha Damodar, Jiva Goswami's deities. So this is the old parikram path. Now this is all apartments and cars and honking, but this is what Vrndavan looked like. This is the parikram path. None of this, you can see that's Madan Mohan temple. but now it's all apartments and shops. But this is Vrndavan in the late 60s, early 70s. This is a transcendental skyline of Vrndavan. Prabhupada said over 5,000 temples. That's Madan Mohan Temple. We're looking across the Jamuna at Madan Mohan. And the bottom picture is from the top of Madan Mohan Temple. Sanatana Goswami's temple and his Bhajan Kutir. This is what the view he would see, looking down across the fields, looking at the Yamuna. So this is the world Prabhupada was living in, peaceful and sublime and supportive of his devotional life. This is the Kusum Sarovara. This is where the gopis, under the ruse of picking flowers for worshiping the sun god, they would meet Krishna and the cowherd boys and have so many wonderful pastimes. This is where Narada Muni took a dip to have a female form so he could join in the Ras Leela. So these are the places. This is Prabhupada's neighborhood. This, of course, is Radhakund. We're looking at Radhakund. Shamakund is through that arch. So this is what Prabhupada gave up for us. He gave up his own spiritual comfort and went with great difficulty to save us, to carry out the order, the impossible mission of his spiritual master. These are beautiful Radha Damodar. So Prabhupada's on a morning walk. By this time, he's been to the West and back. Prabhupada was walking with some of his disciples in Calcutta. And the Victoria Memorial, it was built for Queen Victoria 50th Jubilee or something like that. So it's 184 feet tall. It's 15 stories. It's a huge, massive building. And Prabhupada said that as a young boy, he climbed to the very top when they were building it. And, it's India. Anywhere in the developing world, you see those bamboo scaffoldings. It's just, instead of metal, it's all bamboo lashed together with rope. The whole thing creaks and shakes, and, it's very dangerous. And Prabhupada climbed all the way to the top, 15 stories, 184 feet. So the devotees, when Prabhupada narrated this, that he'd climbed all the way to the top as a young boy, the devotees said, Prabhupada, you must have been very brave. And Prabhupada said, and I am still brave. Otherwise, how have I come to your country all alone? So that fearlessness and faith, that was the essence of Srila Prabhupada. Now, we should remember Prabhupada was 69 years old and all alone. He was not in good health. He had 2 heart attacks. He got seasick. I don't know if I've gotten seasick before on a boat. I mean, it's horrible. You're dizzy. You can't stand up. You're throwing up. It's just completely debilitating. So here's Prabhupada traveling from Calcutta all the way to Boston and then to New York. 38 days, if you count the trip from Boston to New York, 39 days. And Prabhupada, you saw his suitcase. He had an umbrella. He had a supply of dry cereal. Because he thought, well, I'll probably be able to get potatoes. But he didn't know if he could get anything else. So he had about a 2-month supply. He had some oats. He had some dry grains. And he had his trunks of books and 40 rupees, which is the equivalent of $8 in those days. And it was a 12,500-mile journey. It's just inconceivable that Prabhupada even survived. Now, this is Prabhupada in Boston Harbor. And Prabhupada, just like Prabhupada's observation of New York City, was that the whole place smelled like dog stool. When Prabhupada went for a walk on the docks there in Boston, and he noticed that everywhere they were selling lobster soup, and that fishy smell of lobster soup. So that was his observation of Boston. Prabhupada actually later on told the devotees that we can make a cauliflower potato wet vegetable with paneer. I've had that cooked by Prabhupada in Los Angeles one time. Anyway, on his spiritual master's disappearance day, 1970. And it was fantastic. And Prabhupada said, you give them this cauliflower wet vegetable with paneer, and they will give up lobster soup. So here's Prabhupada. Now, when Prabhupada was looking, you can imagine Prabhupada sitting on the boat, looking at Boston skyline, smelling the lobster soup, and wondering, how will these people, I think I have a line. There we are. So this is the Customs and Immigration Building in Boston Harbor. So this is where Prabhupada went through to have his passport stamped, and they asked him, how long do you want? And Prabhupada said, well, a month, because that's how long Prabhupada thought he would last. He said, no, we'll give you several months. And they stamped his passport. But Prabhupada, on the Jaladuta, wrote that Markandeya Bhagavad Dharma, that bringing Krishna consciousness to the West, that famous poem. And again, Prabhupada's mood of full surrender, self-sacrifice, not considering himself, but how to execute the order of his spiritual master, and imbibing the mood of compassion of our Vaishnava Sampradaya. So Prabhupada wrote, I'm very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I'm seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I will not be able to do so on my own. That was Prabhupada's humble mood. Now, Prabhupada on the Jaladuta, what happened to it? Well, that's what it is. This picture where it says unalloyed steel, Prabhupada was sitting on the Jaladuta and looking at the Boston skyline, and it was all foggy, and and Prabhupada had been on shore, and he'd gotten a taste of what America's like. And he wrote that poem, they're absorbed in the modes of ignorance and passion. How Prabhupada said later on in the lecture, he said, as soon as I explain to them the four regular principles, they're going to tell me, Swami, please go home. The Prabhupada thought that they'll put him on a boat and ship him back as soon as he tells the four regular principles. So Prabhupada had been told, you can't tell them that. Then you got to wear Western dress. You got to learn to eat with a knife and fork. It's so cold, you have to eat meat. Prabhupada heard all these bogus tips. So Prabhupada was wondering, well, were they right? So Prabhupada was praying to Krishna, what to do. And Prabhupada tells how out of the fog, there was a metal fabricating shop, a warehouse, metal, for making steel, whatever, metal implements. And the big sign coming through the fog said, unalloyed steel. And Prabhupada thought, well, there it is, because he was praying for a sign from Krishna, and all of a sudden this sign appeared, that unalloyed, give them pure Krishna consciousness, don't bend. That was Prabhupada's mood. So now Prabhupada went to Butler, Pennsylvania. So this is the main street of Butler, Pennsylvania in 1965. I mean, just Prabhupada stayed with Gopal and Sally Agarwal. And this isn't Sally Agarwal, but it's a good facsimile. And Prabhupada was staying at the YMCA, but he would come to bathe and to do his laundry and to do some cooking. He would come to the Agarwal's house. And it was not uncommon that he would show up. One time, Prabhupada narrates, he arrived at his appointed time, and Sally was cooking roast beef in the oven. And anyone who knows it has that acrid, putrid smell, permeates the place. And Sally was opened the kitchen door and flapping her apron. You see her there in an apron and saying, trying to air out the kitchen, saying, sorry, Swamiji, sorry, Swamiji. So what Prabhupada had to tolerate. And this is, again, it's an impossible mission, but let's just put a sharp point on that. This is a postcard, Butler, Pennsylvania, and they're the birthplace of the Jeep. They're famous for making the U.S. Army Jeep. That's what it's famous for. And I'm telling you, I know 1965, America was at its apex of power. They'd conquered, they defeated the Axis. America was the most powerful country in the world. I mean, the Vietnam War came along and so many different things, and America was greatly diminished. But in those days, we stood astride the globe and were completely arrogant. The American way was the only way. And everybody was a Christian. I mean, even if you were a Catholic, which is a division of Christianity, you were a little suspicious. And if you were Jewish, well, you were the killer of Christ. And Muslim and Buddhist weren't even on the radar. So this is the iron wall that Prabhupada sailed into. There's no question that it was like against all odds. Now, this is Prabhupada just what Prabhupada went through for us, what he left behind, Vrndavan Dham, and what he tolerated for us. This is Prabhupada all bundled up. He's got a scarf and sweaters and an overcoat and a cap. But you'll notice, if you can see here, he's still got his dhoti on. Prabhupada didn't bend an inch. And this is the morning walk. 1965 was the coldest winter on record. And this is the exact path Prabhupada would walk on to go to Dr. Mishra's apartment to cook his meals. So Prabhupada didn't like cold. Prabhupada said, they asked him one time, do you believe in a heaven and hell in your Vaishnava theology? And he said, actually, for me, New York is hell and Vrndavan is heaven. He didn't like cold weather. So this is Prabhupada, but this jaunty stride of Srila Prabhupada, things are starting to roll. He's got some disciples. These are the early days in New York City. Abhay Charan means fearless at the lotus feet. Prabhupada had an indomitable spirit. He was determined. Later on, Puri Maharaj mentioned, the older Puri Maharaj, he shared with us that his calculation of the secret of Prabhupada's success. He said the secret of Prabhupada's success were several. That he had unlimited compassion and humility. Otherwise, how could he have tolerated New York? So unlimited compassion and humility. And he had firm faith, absolute faith in the order of a spiritual master, and undaunting conviction in the power of the holy name. So here's the first American Vaishnavas. We've got Brahmananda. There's big Brahmananda right in the middle. This is Jayadvaita Maharaj over here. This is Madhusudana. This is Damodar. This is Vamanadev. Such an amazing crew. So there they are, the first American Vaishnavas. It worked. So this is Prabhupada in front of St. Bridget's Church, Tompkins Square Park. Such a sublime, transcendental personality. And he's speaking to America, truth to power. This is Prabhupada at Hippie Hill. You'll notice here they've got Lord Jagannath. He doesn't even have any clothes. When I went to the temple in 1969 in Laguna Beach, on the altar was a big Lord Balaram. No Subhadra, no Jagannath, and Balaram had no clothing. He was just painted. So it's just amazing. And here's Prabhupada, dauntlessly, complete faith, just get them to somehow or other chant. So boundless compassion and faith in the holy name. This is Hayagriva, by the way, right over here. And this is Mukunda. I think this is Govindadasi. So imagine after leaving Vrndavan, traveling all the way across on the Jaladuta, tolerating New York City, it actually worked. And here is Prabhupada bringing back a sampling. I think this is 1971. And Prabhupada's bringing back a sampling of those American Vaishnavas. Please note, this right over here, this is the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami. So where Prabhupada, before his journey to the West, was sweeping and crying and begging for mercy, here he's returned to that exact same place with American Vaishnavas, temples starting all across the West. And he's reading from Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Devotion. His book, Prabhupada's commentary and translation of Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Imagine the ecstasy Prabhupada was in. And imagine the pleasure he gave to Rupa Goswami. That Rupa Goswami's agent had gone to the West. The sixth Goswami's agent had gone to the West. He'd succeeded and brought back an offering of Western Vaishnavas to place at their lotus feet. Imagine the sublime, loving reciprocation. And this is Radha Damodar just for ecstasy. So Prabhupada, as I said earlier, was the Sena. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur predicted that a Senapata Bhakta, a great general in Lord Chaitanya's movement will come and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And Prabhupada crafted a strategy. Everyone was following the West. Everybody was. India had been browbeaten for 200 years by the British colonial rule that your culture is scratch, you don't have anything to offer, and just chase after the West. And they after 200 years of browbeating, they bought it. So Prabhupada's a transcendental strategist. Prabhupada thought, okay, they all think the West is, let me go to the West, get educated, well-to-do, the whole montage. Let me turn those Westerners who we're all chasing after from India, let me turn them into Vaishnavas and bring them back and show them that there's value in your Vaishnav culture. And it worked. It just blew their minds in India. So here's Prabhupada's, it's working. And this is the San Francisco Ratha Yatra. I just took the theme of Ratha Yatra. This is Mayapur. This is on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Marg. This is Achyutananda Prabhu. And this is the first large pilgrimage. I think 73 devotees went from all over the world and met in Mayapur for the first Mayapur festival. 2 weeks in Mayapur and then 2 weeks in Vrndavan. And this is the first kirtan. Back here, this is our Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir. And we're chanting on Bhaktisiddhanta Marg down to Lord Chaitanya's birthplace over here, Yogpit. And I remember, I was there. I remember people just coming out from their houses and there's a whole series of Gaudiya Math temples and ashrams on the way. And they were just gaping. They couldn't believe it. Their jaws dropped. Because they thought, well, this is just that Lord Chaitanya's message will be known in every town and village. That's just some fantastic, hope. But it was actually happening. They could not believe it. So this is the Los Angeles Ratha Yatra. This is on Venice Beach, which is full of, in the summertime, there's, it's just chaos. There's pickpockets and prostitutes and drug dealing and robbing, and it's full of tourists being, hassled, and it's just wild. And the local police lieutenant told it's a whole story, but to get our permit the second time, there was some challenge by some Christians that causes disturbance when we have our Ratha Yatra. The local police lieutenant, this was his precinct, Venice Beach, where the Ratha Yatra is, he just laughed. He said, the most peaceful day of the entire summer is when the Hare Krishnas have their festival. He said, it was up to me, I'd let them have the festival every day of the summer. So that's the power of Lord Jagannath's Ratha Yatra. This is just, the devotees work so hard. 4 days after the Ratha Yatra in Los Angeles, they sit down again and plan, okay, what worked? How can we improve? They have a whole strategy session for next year. And it's just how to engage these people and give them Krishna. This is the Australian. This is a nighttime Ratha Yatra. This is done in our wintertime, their summer. Of course, they're on the other side of the equator. Now, you've got pundits in India who say, oh, you can only do Ratha Yatra on this particular day, and, we're offensive to Lord Jagannath. Prabhupada didn't buy that one pinch. He used to say he's not Purinath, he's Jagannath for the whole universe. So Prabhupada told us, wherever the most people, you hold Ratha Yatra. So at this huge music festival in Australia, at nighttime, they have a nighttime Ratha Yatra. These are devotees. This is New York City. And don't take any offense, but Prabhupada said it. Prabhupada said the most important, of course, that was whatever it was, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Prabhupada said that America was the most important country. New York was the most important city in America. And Fifth Avenue was the most important street in New York City. Now, this is where Prabhupada had wandered as practically a beggar with no support, chased out of where we were staying by the drug-crazed hippie. And then here we have Prabhupada sailing down Fifth Avenue, the most important street of the most important city of the most important country. Thousands of followers. It's just if we just stop for a moment and wrap our mind around it, there's no way you could have predicted. It was every single factor was against him. This is in Hong Kong. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but here in the back, you see the Rath Yatra. This is in Kowloon, which is the shopping area, business. This is where all the tourists are. And here's the devotees doing Rath Yatra in Kowloon, Hong Kong. This is in Russia. This is in the city of Perm. You can see the Cyrillic. Here's all the posters are in Russian. You see the Cyrillic over here, you know. But they have over 30 Rath Yatras are held all over Russia every year. Just imagine. We're almost done with this. This is in Dhaka. This is in old Dhaka, down the main street of old Dhaka in Bangladesh. This is in Indonesia. This is in Jakarta. Oh, this is Bali. This is the Rath Yatra in Bali in Indonesia, a Muslim country. It's just absolutely inconceivable. This is London. This is the National Gallery. These are the prize jewels of the British Empire. This is the National Gallery. And here's Rath Yatra. This is Piccadilly Street. It's in Gilbert and Sullivan's songs. It's, you know, it's everyone, you know, you go to Piccadilly Street, you know. And here's Lord Jagannath sailing down. It's just inconceivable. This was actually an excuse for me to put a picture of one of my heroes, Vaisheshika Prabhu. But the fact that Prabhupada makes the point, you know, Prabhupada was humility personified, but for teaching, he would make the point that there were so many editions of Bhagavad Gita in America before his edition, Bhagavad Gita as it is. They didn't make one single devotee. There wasn't even the concept that you would become a devotee. Prabhupada's Gita made devotees all over the planet. We've got a man now I'm corresponding with. He lives in Chicago. He's an art student, University of Chicago. Never met devotees, had never been to the temple. Got Prabhupada's Gita, carved out of wood his own deity of Krishna. Carved a beautiful Krishna. And he told me, you know, everyone makes so much noise around here. And, you know, he said, I get up early. He said, I get up at 4 o'clock. I take a shower. And then I put some incense at his feet and I offer some flowers. Is that okay? I couldn't believe it. The man from reading Prabhupada's Gita, he was a self-made pujari, made his own deity. That is the power of Prabhupada's words. Now, we're wrapping up here, but to get back to the theme, what is the secret of that empowerment? Yeyatam mam prapadyante, Krishna says in the Gita, that, and this is open for all of us. It's not that, you know, Prabhupada opened the door for all of us to also become empowered. Sometimes we'll all take a swipe at them, the Ritvik people. You know, they think that they're glorifying Prabhupada. Oh, Prabhupada was, you know, the initiation stops at Srila Prabhupada because he was so powerful. Sounds nice. But what they're actually saying is that Prabhupada was so impotent spiritually, he couldn't make one single pure devotee who could then carry on the Sampradaya. How is that praise? Oh, you're a very powerful father, but you can't make one child? I mean, it's just silly. But off the track there, but sorry. But the secret to Prabhupada's empowerment was his full surrender in the order of a spiritual master. Now, different materials carry electricity. That's the reason why I've got this electrical current through a wire. We know rubber is a complete insulin. You know, the current won't flow. Wood, hardly any will go. Water, then the current will flow a little more. Progressive degrees of current. You get to copper, copper is good, you know. But the best actually is silver. Does anyone know why silver is the best conductor? The most currency can flow through silver? And the answer is because it has no resistance. There's no resistance. 100% of the current can flow. So Prabhupada was fully surrendered, and therefore the full current of Krishna's mercy, the Goswami's mercy, his spiritual master's mercy could flow. Full surrender. This is a verse explaining what happens when one becomes, because we're talking, what was the secret of Prabhupada's empowerment? How was he able to change the world? And this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's describing Krishna speaking first. This is Krishna speaking. He says, "O Brahmanas, as iron attracted by a magnetic stone moves automatically toward the magnet, my consciousness, having been changed by his will, is attracted by Lord Vishnu. Thus I have no independence." Excuse me. This is the devotee speaking first. The devotee saying, just like iron filings cannot resist a magnet, they are drawn automatically. So the devotee cannot resist his, just like the gopis, they were wishing that they weren't thinking in separation. They wish they couldn't think about Krishna. But that full surrender, remember we were talking about Nirjan Bhajana via the Sankirtan mission. So that full surrender, full empowerment, coming to the highest level of consciousness, that one cannot separate oneself from meditating on Krishna. Here it says, one has no independence, just like iron is attracted to a magnet. All right, that's from the devotee side to Krishna. But guess what? A few verses later, Krishna gives the other side. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahmana, "I'm completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. As chaste women bring their gentle husbands under control by service, the pure devotees who are equal to everyone and completely attached to me in the core of the heart bring me under their control." The devotee is completely under Krishna's control, and Krishna is completely under the devotee's control by this secret of surrender. Krishna is known as Bhaktivatsala. He's leaning favorably towards his devotees. His devotees can't think of anything but Krishna, and Krishna's meditation is how to please and protect his devotees. 2 more slides and we're done. Thus, the unconquerable Lord, Krishna is known as Ajita. Who can conquer Krishna? They say, oh, God can't take a form, God, but the unconquerable Krishna, he becomes conquered by a pure devotee's love. And because our premise was, what are the power of a pure devotee's tears? The power of a pure devotee's tears is they bring Krishna under the control of the devotee. And the devotees, why does he want Krishna under his control? Only so that he can fulfill Krishna's wishes. That is the sweet reciprocation of bhakti. Prabhupada was in Detroit, and driving back from Belle Isle Park, he saw a sign in front of a hardware store, Detroit, coming back from his morning walk. And there was a string of stores, and Prabhupada looked out the window and said, "Ah, this is Mahaprabhu's movement." So Govardhan, the temple president, said, "Prabhupada, what are you seeing?" And what Prabhupada saw, this was an advertisement. There was a big sign on a hardware store. And you see here, this SWP means Sherwin-Williams Paints. So this is the logo for a paint company. And they're saying, their slogan is, covers the earth. So you see how it's spreading all over the earth. So Prabhupada said, this is Mahaprabhu's movement. And he actually accomplished it. I like this picture. Here's Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. But if you look at this picture, as far back as you can see, people are chanting and dancing. This movement is big enough for everyone. Prabhupada was sitting in Detroit one time giving class, and he looked out at the audience. It was the old temple. I can't remember the year, but Prabhupada, and there were hippies and college professors and black kids and inner city street kids and Indian families, sannyasis, the whole montage of humankind, the whole spectrum. And Prabhupada stopped, looked over his glasses at the audience, and said to himself, but it was picked up on the mic, Prabhupada said, Krishna's lotus feet, they're big enough for everyone. So the fact of the matter is that Prabhupada had that big vision, that everyone is by nature a devotee. And Prabhupada said there's Brahmins on every corner. Just go and pick them up. And that's our job, and it works. So it's impossible to measure the mercy that we have received. If we think of what Prabhupada sacrificed to come to the West, to travel on the Jaladuta, 2 heart attacks, seasickness, lobster soup, smelled like dog stool, being robbed. And just imagine what Prabhupada went through. And he refused to turn. And he refused to give up his optimism. And it actually worked all over the world. So we've been saved. We've been given a life, as Prabhupada says in the poem of his Vyas Puja offering, a life that's new and fresh. We've been given that Vaishnav life. So a devotee, Madhuvisa, actually was thanking Prabhupada for this. And he said, I don't know what I did to deserve this. You've been, how have I gotten such mercy? And Prabhupada said, I have created your good fortune. And then Prabhupada said, the only thing I ask in return, Prabhupada did ask something in return for that great mercy that caused us immeasurable mercy that we've received. What was the one thing Prabhupada asked? I ask that you go and give mercy to others. So that is to carry on the order that Prabhupada received and give Krishna to others. So considering all that Srila Prabhupada did for us, we should have the attitude of gratitude, that let me think, whatever my problems are, there's always, as they say in Italy, they have a saying, there's always a rock in the shoe. There's always the threefold miseries. There's always something. So what? Big deal. I should give up my as Prabhupada tolerated so much, let me just tolerate a little and try to spread Krishna consciousness. And if we do that, lo and behold, in due course of time, we will become absorbed in Nirjan Bhajana. We will become completely absorbed in full meditation on Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What more could we ask for? So let's end there. Thank you for your time and attention, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Well, and one thing, when you can't see your face, you don't know if you're leaning too close. So I hope I didn't spook you by.
No.
Anyway, thank you for this series. It's
fine.
a very blissful series.
Look, and of course, we on the broadcast, yes, 2 technical difficulties. We'll chop them out when we edit it, and it's going to be a fantastic finished product. And wow, what a wonderful journey. You really did a lot of research on these pictures, didn't you? Really great.
It was a great meditation. To tell you the truth, it was a lot of fun and a great meditation.
And to just on Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day, to just hear his whole story and to come down to the conclusion that, yes, we have a singular thing to do, to spread his movement and to give that mercy to others. And his mercy is still flowing. And
it's not, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's not that, okay, I have to choose something bitter because it's my duty. I have to, rather that by doing that, it's the very means by which we become fully Krishna conscious. So we're repaying our debt, but lo and behold, that debt is sweeter than a gulab jamun. What's not to lose, There's nothing wrong in this equation.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your
valuable time. Thank you, Gopal, and thank you, Shakshi Gopal, for your patience. All glories to Prabhupada.
Glories to Prabhupada. Hari Bol.